I'm working on a spy story with some other filmmakers, and they
Mm.
give me their script, and I'm like, well, I mean, this is fun, but I mean, I work with real spies. They don't talk like this. And it was just kind of this mind blowing idea. Well, that I actually do work with real spies.
Welcome to the Bold Brand Show. If you're in the AEC industry and want to grow your firm, we're sharing exactly how bold and innovative firms win more. The sad truth is, most firms that are struggling in the AEC industry are still doing things the way we've always done them. But this show is about finding a better way. I'm your host and founder of Bold Brand, Josh Miles. I'm a published author, veteran of the TEDx stage, and a brand strategist with over 25 years of experience. But my superpower is my focus on AEC firms to understand how branding and marketing in the professional services industries is wildly different than for retail brands like Apple, Amazon, or Starbucks. So in this podcast, we're going deep with AEC firm leaders, marketers, and innovators in the AEC industry. We'll focus on the hottest topics and trends in AEC to uncover the growth secrets of the most successful firms and how firms can create lasting legacies and perhaps what the future has in store. I've got a special deal to share with you from my friends at BISNOW. I regularly hit up BISNOW events here in Denver, and honestly, they're my go-to for networking in commercial real estate and AEC. Each month, they pull together these great panels with heavy-hitting speakers who actually know what's happening right now in different markets. Not just theory, but real deals and trends. What's cool is they're not just a Denver thing, they run these events across the country. So if you're looking to stay on top of market shifts or want to connect with people making moves in CRE, it's worth checking out. If you're interested, check out BISNOW, that's BISNOW.com/events to see what's coming up. You can use the code BOLD, that's BOLD, when you register to save 15% on your ticket. Trust me, the connections you'll make are worth it. Special thank you to BISNOW. On today's episode, we're chatting with speaker, facilitator, coach, and founding principal of SagePresence, Dean Hyers. Strategic and bold, Dean speaks to inspire and takes responsibility for your win. His background is almost stranger than fiction, teaching and coaching presence with film actors, stage speakers, sales presenters, courtroom attorneys, and government covert agents, and all translating all of this unique experience to elevate your team's presence. Now, I've personally sat in on several of Dean's presentations at various SMPS conferences, and yes, in spite of having seen Dean present multiple times, I always make a point to sit in on his sessions because as a speaker, I find I always learn something from his talks. Dean, welcome to the Bold Brand Show.
Hey, it is so great to be here. And you probably feel that way because every time I speak, I forget something. So then the next time I remember it, and that's where you get something new.
That's perfect. That's a great way to add the element of surprise to your talks.
Oh, well, there's a first side. By the way, I have appreciated you and my audiences because when you are present, you come up and talk, you raise good questions in the process, and you're a really engaged audience member. So I remember noticing you right out of the chute, and so it's really meaningful for me to be here on your show.
I think there's something about, being a speaker and then how that makes you look at presenters differently when someone else is on the stage and sort of knowing what you appreciate out of a speaker and as an audience member as well. So I'm glad I can offer a little ray of sunshine for you in the audience. Before we jump into the business piece of this here, I follow you on several social networks, and I know that you've shared this with a lot of your professional networks as well. But I saw that you had a scary but positive update to your healing journey. And I wonder if you could just, here's a chance to update more fans of yours and more folks who follow you. So give us the latest.
Well, I appreciate that chance. Let's just start with the end. I'm okay. So, for those of you who haven't been following me, I discovered I had cancer, which is not a fun thing. It actually was Christmas Day in 2023. I sat down for Christmas dinner and I was taking a photo of the family, and there was things popping. You're swiping your screen to get to the app you want. And one of them was a message from my doctor, and I opened it up. And as I sat down for Christmas dinner, I discovered that I had cancer, and it was pretty serious. And
Mm.
it's 2024 was kind of a wild ride. I had a wonderful ride, I found a lot of joy in going through that difficult experience, and I found a lot of power in the inside, as opposed to needing happiness from the outside. I brought the joy, and but the
Mhm.
scare you're talking about is I had been cleared, and I had a bad test just last, I don't know, about a week ago, and
Yeah.
they said your blood says you're fighting cancer again. So I went back into all the full body scans and all the tests. And to my good fortune, I got cleared again. It was a false positive, and my treatment is on track. I'm on track, but I found joy again before I got that result, and that's kind of the most important part. Joy is what comes from me outward. It's like lighting the
Mm.
candle on the inside, and I knew I wanted to get back to that before the outcome was announced, because I don't want to be dependent upon that. So I found that joy, and I was able to be positive and make it easier for my family, who's also terrified. And I just was in a really, really good mood. And then I got the good news. So I had a fantastic weekend. I'm lighter than a feather. And tomorrow I give my first speech on this subject. It's called the Joy Code. And I
Mm.
a keynote on how you address crisis with joy. And that applies to business, applies to life, it applies to leadership. So I'm speaking to a whole bunch of construction executives and leaders, and I'm telling them the story of the Joy Code.
Mm, that's awesome. Well, hopefully we can add a little more joy to people here today
I
on
hope
the
so.
podcast as well. Broadly today we dig into innovations within the professional services industry, and I get really excited about other companies and other firms that support the AEC world and are making bold moves. And I'm just curious to hear more about your strategies at Sage Presence, and then maybe to talk a little bit about presenting via technology too. So we'll dig into that today as well. But the one of the crazy things to me, and I know I've heard you tell the story several times, but is your film background. So maybe you talk a little bit about how you transitioned from film into the professional services space.
Well, the crazier is how I got into the professional services space from the film space. So I was an artist my whole life. I started making films when I was 11 years old, and I don't know that I would say I had career aspiration. I was outgrowing toys, and I wanted to find a way to keep playing. And the playful side of me pulled me into film, and I became a director. And I made a whole bunch of feature-length films as a high school student. I would get into film festivals, and I
Wow.
put a lot into it. And I got my fine arts degree, and I had a psychology degree, and I went into film. I got to do a lot. I was an independent filmmaker, not working out of Hollywood, but I did a lot of work in Hollywood. And, I made a feature film, I made computer games, I did television commercials, I did business films, I did lots and lots and lots of stuff with film. I found a skill at coaching actors, and I was really good at taking actors of any level and elevating them quickly. And we developed a
Mm,
program to do that. And so, what's the part where the story gets really crazy for me is pretty much out of the blue. We got a call from, I thought it was a prank phone call. It was the Department of the Interior looking for somebody to train some groups of covert agents that work for the Department of the Interior. It's not like working with the FBI per se, but it's groups that do covert work. And I don't know much about them, but um I
that was by design, I think.
it is. They actually do, like at breaks, they'll come up and they'll pat you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, this is really useful training." And then they'll kind of pinch you a little bit and say something like, "If you ever see me on the street, you don't look at me.
Mhm.
You don't talk to me, you don't say hi, and if you ever blow my cover, I know who you are." And they would actually kind of softly, subtly threaten you. It was cool. So we went out to the Federal Law Enforcement's Training Center in Georgia. We worked at Fort Ripley up in Minnesota, and we would get these groups. And the fun part was working, I'm working on a spy story with some other filmmakers, and they
Mm.
give me their script, and I'm like, well, this is fun, but I mean, I work with real spies. They don't talk like this. And it was just kind of this mind-blowing idea, well, that I actually do work with real spies. And that started the journey. It went on to working with lawyers, and pretty soon the lawyers are like, well, help me. I'm facing a trial. I need to win over a jury. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay. And what happens? I was a coach on 3 murder trials. They're not like parking tickets, they're murder trials. And I'm
Right.
building the closing arguments to not to make they give you the case, but it's how do you win over a jury? And so then
Mm.
I coach these 3 winning murder trials for the prosecution side from Hennepin County and Minneapolis. And they were all difficult to win over a jury. That's kind of the key. This is where the transition happens. A jury is like a selection committee. The the selection committee doesn't know construction, architecture, engineering. They know what they want. And a jury is just regular people who have the task of deciding right and wrong. I was brought in to connect bridge over to the jury, and I kind of knew what to do. And at the end of that, it just by chance, one of the groups that took my acting workshop was a group of architects from BWBR Architects in St. Paul. And they said, this is what we needed. Can you help us win a project? I'm like, okay. And suddenly it was 5 projects, and then it was construction companies, and then it was engineering, and then it was US Bank Stadium and Las Vegas Raiders Stadium. It was Penn Station in New York and the high-speed rail going from Sacramento to San Diego. And suddenly 20 years goes by. It just sort of whoop. And I swung a hammer in a demolition crew when I was in college. But other than that, my exposure to architecture, engineering, construction is interviews. I've never been in sales either, but I've coached teams onto about 18 billion in projects over the last couple decades, almost 24 years. And this became my life. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but the part that's really, really wonderful to me is I got into fiction because I didn't really like the real world. And I
Mm.
got into film to escape the real world and build a career where all you do is play. And this brought me to reality where we make real differences in actual people's lives. And now I tell stories of reality instead of fiction. And it suits me. It landed me and grounded me on this planet.
It's really cool. Um, and also like almost unbelievable. Like you said in your bio, it's stranger than fiction that you would go like from the Hollywood world to the professional services world. But for maybe for somebody who's not worked with a presentation coach before, they've never had training going to a shortlist presentation. What's that like? What is your role in that process like?
Oh, wow. Let's see. I want to start with the idea that the primary job of a presentation coach, is to help you find your self belief. It's not about me. It's not about impressing me. It's not about making anyone more perfect. It's about finding the real you and pulling that out so that you can be yourself as much as possible, as opposed to becoming some orator with elegant words. It's real you. And it's pulling that out and helping you get behind yourself. And so one of the side effects of when I coach is a lot of times people don't even think to call me and tell me how it went, because my goal is to get them to a state where they trust themselves, their instincts, they take full ownership, and then they go do their thing as them. It's not faking anything. It's
Hmm.
being it.
Why do you think, I mean, maybe this is an obvious question, but why do you think people are so challenged to present that real self or, how to get out of their own way? Why is that so tough for us?
I think it's pretty simple. It's that when we're not in our own way, we're not thinking about us. And when we go through our days in all of our most powerful moments, we're thinking about the people we help. And
Hmm.
presentations put you in a limelight in an artificial, unnatural spot where you're alone, well, yeah, maybe with your team, but you're out in front of this audience that you're supposed to impress. And the fear that kicks in is sort of like you're a fish separated from the school. And as soon as you're separated from school, you get nervous. And what nerves do, what emotional energy does, is it turns your focus back on yourself. So somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I'm feeling like I'm heating up. I'm sweating." Well, they might have been sweating 2 minutes ago, but they weren't thinking about it. And so they work through the sweat. It doesn't, we work when it's too hot. It's just suddenly you're so focused on yourself, then you can't even see your normal mode. So fear snaps us into a self-awareness that isn't natural. And it's hard to forget about me when I'm speaking. It's hard to get to this place where I'm not what's important here. You
Hmm.
are what's important here, and I'm trying to help you. That's the mindset you go on your job. Every day we go in to help make a difference for our clients, and we put into an interview, and suddenly we think it's about showtime and somehow being impressive. And I think that's the problem. That's what fear does to you. It's almost like you're walking around with a fluorescent light in one hand and a mirror in the other, and you're seeing yourself in this light that you don't like. That's what's in the way. That's why it's hard to be natural, because you can't autopilot yourself.
So, I mean, it's a little bit of a paradox too. It's like you got to focus on the other person and also present the real you, right? So it's like
Right.
it's part of you is like, I got to unlock this me, but I also need to focus on you.
Yes.
Um, what are some really strong ways to unlock that little piece?
Well, let me give you a super simple one, and it sort of spins off our previous subject about the speech I'm doing tomorrow, the joy code. My personal Dean answer for this is joy is the solution for a tremendous amount of things. That
Mm.
that feeling happy. I talk to people and they say they love their work, and often they're loving it up here intellectually. If you can love it here in your heart and feel it, the good feeling is a good uh, mechanism to get to just sort of change the whole game. And not everybody's good at feeling happy under pressure. So let me augment it just a little. I learned that this is possible from actors. Actors feel joy because it says on page 23, "I feel joy," and we're shooting that scene today, right?
Right.
That's so. Working with them, I realize people can choose their feelings, and that's from the inside. And so I tend to practice feeling joy a lot. And whenever I get hit with pressure, it's like doorways open up as soon as I can get back to that feeling. So the method that I'd recommend people do, which is so opposite of sort of the look above people's heads and try not to think about, look at someone directly. You look at them and you appreciate them. So when I
Mm.
think about appreciating as an activity, I can so here, look at my face right now. I'm not unappreciative, but I'm intellectually appreciative. You're having me on a podcast. It's fun to get
Mhm.
to hang out with you. It's fun to get to share with your audience, and it's good exposure. Now, watch what happens when I start appreciating you. I'm now valuing you specifically. You brought me on this show, and I get to talk with you, and this is fun. You see how different my vibe is. I'm literally appreciating you,
Mm.
for being here. And now I'm going to turn it off for a second and watch how different it is when I turn off that feeling. It's not bad. It's just not warm. So the practice of really seeing a person and appreciating them, valuing your circumstances, valuing the project, whatever it is you want to appreciate, it doesn't matter. You can appreciate the way they look, you can appreciate the opportunity they represent, you can appreciate your long history, or you can appreciate that they're a brand new person. It makes no difference. That feeling changes the game in two ways. First of all, it feels good. You've just countered your fear. And
Mm.
secondly, it has a warm, caring vibe, which tends to spread. So you cause what you want is the feedback of somebody that's with you and caring. When you care that about them in this way, when you appreciate them, suddenly they feel good and now they're appreciating you. You've just started a different cycle than the, am I standing right? Did I say the right thing? Oh gosh, I wonder if you know, am I sweating? Can you see that I'm nervous? You know what? It's not about me. It's about appreciating you. And that's a great method to get there. And you can practice that all day long.
It reminds me of I had a chance to do a closing keynote in Oman, right before the pandemic, so late 2019. And
Yeah.
the guy who had organized the event said, "Hey, this is a really multinational audience. You're gonna have people from the Middle East and North Africa. We've got Europeans, we've got Asians. Like," he said, "the one thing that may be different from US audiences is don't expect them to be on their feet and applauding you the moment you walk in. You have to earn it."
Earn it
And
first.
so I loved that as a challenge. So, going out, I was immediately like, I think I was pulling my inner Dean appreciation, but I was telling them how excited I was to be there and how incredible the audience was and how diverse it was and it literally was one of the coolest speaking experiences I've ever had in my life. But I think I was emoting that to the room, and I was getting that warmth back. And it was like amazing how when you kind of give that to the room, how much it kind of turns up the temperature in the room, which is pretty amazing.
I love where you're going. Okay, so let's take what you just talked about and move it over to a selection committee. Your
Yeah.
selection committee looks like Stonehenge. They are poker
Right.
face. They are not, and the reason that you have to understand is it's not because they're trying to hide something from you. They're typically trying to hide something from their fellow voters. So if they're making a selection, what if they
Mm,
like your team, but they already know that the other person's locked on to the lower budget of the competitor or something? I'm terrified about what my partners think because they could vote for another team. So you get my poker face because I'm trying not to show them who I like because I lose power as soon as that's evident. It has nothing to do with you that you get the poker face from them. It's amazing. It's like we go into an interview with this ridiculous idea that they all agree and they're all like one unit. There's politics over there. And
right.
so you walk into a selection committee and you do what you did. You have to earn it first.
Hmm.
You earn it by valuing them, liking them, appreciating them, loving your work, which could be distilled down into one of two concepts. The sage presence concept is appreciate those people. And the inner dean, that's gonna be my new tech. You need to find your that is like love your work. You do love your work. Can I love it now in front of you, Stonehenge people, and appreciate you? And you do that work and you earn it. And you will see that warmth coming back on a lot of people. Maybe not all of them, but not everybody's super good at poker face. So when you go in there with that joy, then you'll see if you're getting a reaction. You'll see little subtle tells of warmth that shows you're getting through to them. So that's the perfect the idea. I love that you have to earn it first. Same in the interview, but you can earn it in 2 seconds. Walk in and appreciate them and stay on that. You not like you can't get serious about things, but keep going back to I appreciate you, I value you, you're special, I like being with you, and I love my work. And that sort of sequence keeps recharging your vibe in a positive way. That's how you get to real you. Because once you're focused on them and how they matter and the importance of the project and how that matters, you're not focusing on you anymore. And your personal presence just shines through.
Yeah, the other piece of the selection committee conversation is you're seldom up there by yourself, right? You usually are surrounded by a team, and so you can be bringing your A game, and but everybody's not all going to be robots, which is a good thing. We're not all going to be identical, but what are some ways that you can kind of bring bring the rest of your team along to elevate that appreciation and that presence?
Sure. Well, let's start with not doing the thing that everybody does all the time, which does create that aloneness, which is simply this: I have slide number one, you have slide number two and three, she has slide number four and five, and we isolate ourselves in little bubbles where I have the solo spotlight. You're up here with me, but I'm the only one talking. And we
Mhm.
compartmentalize with the goal of being able to control it, get it down. And what we're doing is a whole bunch of TikTok videos combined together into your presentation each time you're going through the spotlight by yourself. So what if now some of that's important. I think it is nice to have moments where I'm just doing my dean thing, but what if we co-present on a couple things. We both take this slide, or you and I and she take slide two. And we get to talk together, and suddenly synergy forms because I can have presence. If I look at you and I beam with my emotional truth and I say reasonably good things, I have presence. But if we talk together, suddenly you have synergy. And so
Mm.
I think there's probably 50 answers to the question, but one piece of it is don't put yourself in the solo presenter spotlight for the whole time. Put yourself in little groups and maybe don't over orchestrate that. Yeah, so listen, Josh, when I say this, then you come in with that, and then I'll listen. You say that, and I'll come back in. Don't figure that out. Just talk together and use the regular skills in the moment. Because I'll see, and we might, if you want to, we can try it together. But I saw it when it became super powerful to me as I was watching a presentation that should have been great. Everything about it was great. The people were great. The messages were great. And for some reason, it was boring. It was just boring. And then it was this construction, and the construction superintendent comes up with the project manager, and he wouldn't memorize anything anyway, and so he just give me a site map and we'll just talk about it. So I showed up the site map, and he's like, we're gonna bring the trucks around the south entrance, and we're gonna come in like this, and meanwhile we're gonna be doing this, as the project manager, and that's my cue to put these things in line. And they start going back and forth, and it was fascinating. And
Mm.
so I was like, oh my gosh, that's synergy. So I went back through the presentation, and we just paired people up for everything.
Hmm.
Same exact presentation. The whole thing was fascinating and interesting and energetic because we defied the solo presenting kind of relay race approach. You pass the mic and you run for it and pass the mic and they run with it. And we started doing it as little clusters, and suddenly human energy was coming. And the soup was smart enough to say, well, I'm not going to memorize a bunch of cues. I'm just going to talk about the roads, you know? And so he talked when he had something to say, and the other person did as well. And suddenly that was like the rules of a dinner conversation. You can do a dinner conversation. That's the rules of tag teaming. And if one person talks too much, my wife's going to kick me under the table and let somebody else talk. And think about this. Imagine now everyone watching this has great dinner parties and dinner conversations. It doesn't go like this. Listen, when you hear the doorbell ring, honey, go answer it. When you open up, say hi, okay? And then when I hear that, I'm going to say, hey, why don't you come in? Now, when they come in, then you offer them a drink, and you don't figure it out. You just have your friends over and you sit down and you drink and you talk. That's the energy you want to bring into an interview when you're talking about the project from the different stations of the executive versus the project manager versus the designer and the soup, et cetera, et cetera. The engineer, the specialist, the safety officer, and the estimator. You want to try to get little clusters, and so that we can just use the same skills we would in a meeting to say what we have to say.
Well, maybe not to take us out of the presentation world, but thinking about some presentations are virtual
Yeah.
entirely, or some of them have this kind of hybrid element where some people are in the room and some people are, zooming in or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Big
what
deal.
what percent of your clients that you're coaching right now would you say have some sort of virtual element in those presentations?
Well, I would say 100% of all the clients I've served in a long time now have a fair amount of in-person meetings and presentations, and a fair amount of virtual meetings and presentation, and a fair amount and a growing amount of hybrid presentations and meetings where some people are present and some are virtual. The pandemic really was an interesting turning point. That's when my whole world went full circle, and suddenly, oh, we're
Mm.
we're in, oh, we're here. And first business got really, really bad, and we had a discussion about whether we should just throw in the towel. And one of my staff members is like, but we're filmmakers. This has to go somewhere. It's going to go here. We know
Right.
this. And I'm like, yeah, that's really strange that I had to have somebody tell me that. So all of a sudden, we had an expertise because in film, this was our world, the two-dimensional world. So I think I don't find a lot of people who never face virtual. I find mostly people who all face in-person, virtual, and hybrid, and they're three different animals. I want them to be as similar as possible. And
Hmm.
presence, there's a few twists. Ask me anything you want to know about the difference between them, but um, the goal is the same. I want to be me, and I want to be me
Well,
here.
I think, if you're ranking them in terms of what's the most terrifying, personally, I hate the webinar format where you're broadcasting to faces you can't see and you have literally no visual feedback at all. But those hybrid combos where you got the tiny little face across the screen and the Brady Bunch squares, I mean that's not much better
No,
because it's
no,
hard to read a lot from those. And
no.
then, I mean, there's even the sort of the podcast version like we're doing here, where we're talking to each other, but also kind of sharing with a broader audience. So
Right.
asking for a friend, what are some of the best ways to get across
Well, you're
that
really good at
appreciation,
it.
that
You
emotion?
you
Yeah.
already know you're good at it, but I do respect that you honor and respect the difference. I actually got good at this by doing webinars because the first couple of times I'm like, I don't even know if they're even there, you know?
Right.
And it felt sort of strange putting it out there. And then I was like, well, I have to imagine them there. And then every once in a while I look down at the screen, it's like, oh, I see, oh, there's 156 people in there. Then I'm like, well, are they listening? Are they doing their laundry? I know my wife sometimes when she has a meeting, she'll go and put a piece of tape over her camera and go and take a bath, and it's like, I don't know where these people are. So it spooked me and I got used to it. Now, how did I get used to it? It is the same thing. I have to appreciate you for being out there somewhere, whoever you are. And I just have to care about you and move the attention off myself because staring at the little green dot makes me see myself. But I'm doing that, by the way, I'm doing that now. I'm mostly looking right next to the green dot and I see you below my screen because look at this. If I'm talking to you in this podcast and I want to look at you, this is what you would be getting. So it's
Hmm.
not a true connection. And this is more the true connection. So I
Right.
have to track your blurry peripheral, but I can see you reasonably well. And I have to spend the time in the lens where eye contact is. And that's where the eye contact of all the other people is. So let me show you a couple of simple tricks. First of all, I want to pretend we're not virtual. In fact, I'll
Sure.
pretend we're in a live audience where I usually have met you. If I were in a live audience, there you'd be a person and there's a person. And there'd be a person over there and there's somebody farther in the back. This is kind of what it looks like. So when I present, I just talk to one person at a time. And almost every time a thought comes that's new, I finish it out with a person. And then I go to the next person. Now, this is how you make connections live. I really only talk to a group one at a time, and I switch every thought. Okay, so there's that. Now, when you go to virtual, which is, I guess, sort of like what we are here, everyone shares one eyeball right there. And so I can look at the screen for little moments. I can check my notes if I have to, but I spend my time in the lens. This is going to connect with everyone. Okay, so that's a pretty big difference. You have to get used to doing both. I can make eye contact with people. I can make all the eye contact in the lens. And when I listen too, rather than listening here, which looks like I'm multitasking, I listen up here.
Hmm.
And I react. I watch so many Zoom meetings. I want to hit hybrid too, but I watch Zoom Teams meetings. And what people do when they listen is something like this. They check out. They're not. They're listening. They're looking at the screen. They don't do anything. Then when they talk, then you've got talking lips. So now I've got this when I'm presenting, and I've got this when I'm not. You know what you get from me is you get this. And then when I'm listening, I mean, you're doing it. You're alive. I can
Yeah.
see you. So this feeds the sense of connection and duplicates what would be there naturally. So let me hit hybrid, then I can get past this. In hybrid,
Sure.
I got a room full of people. So it's a boardroom. And then I got a camera and a screen. Most people just forget about those people and they meet with these people, and the virtual people watch. And every once in a while, they have to make a sound to interrupt. What I do is every third or fourth eye contact comes back here. So let me I'll simulate for just 10 seconds. So everybody, we're going to have the meeting about XYZ. Glad you're all here. It's really important that you participate. We're going to be talking about this and talking about that. And later we got a guest who's going to come and visit us. And it's really important that this guest is going to bring this value to us. Okay, so I just keep coming back. And that's the only way they know that I'm tracking them. They matter at all. And then I can also say, hey, I want to hear from everyone in here. We'll pull a couple of virtual participants. Let's hear from the room first. Okay, now rest of the team, chime in. Somebody has to own the job of interconnecting the two worlds. And you know what? It isn't even hard. You just have to do it. And if you
Right.
do it, then they're all involved and you can have one meeting together. That's the system.
Yeah, I mean the challenge also is when you're that in-person person in the boardroom with the virtual screen behind you, it's often a completely different angle, or you're all facing each other across a long table or a round table or whatever it is, and then you've got some other device or monitor. I mean, unless you've got little owl cam or something, those are kind of fancy, but a lot of times you have to be so intentional to literally turn yourself around and face the other direction and give that appreciation, as you say.
Now, I'm going to argue that that's a good thing, but it's true. Owl cams are great. I actually love them. But when I have the screen behind me, the intentionality of my checking that is going to keep telling the rest of the group that it matters. So let's just pretend if the screen were behind me, I'm talkity talk, 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 and talk, 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 and I come back. Now, we know that's not ideal to turn your back on the audience, but what I've done is I've told them that I'm monitoring them. Now,
Hmm.
better if it's to the side. I will often set my laptop to my side so it's this, and I'll do it that way. But
Sure.
you know,
And that's probably
it's
way
just
better than
important.
it being like below your line of sight too. So you're not like
Yeah.
talking over it and they're looking at your chin, and that's weird.
The strange one
um,
is the conference room where the camera's on the ceiling. And I actually just deal with the strangeness. And I look up there and I talk to them and I come back and talk to them and it's a little odd, but I have to do it.
well, given your film roots and um I think your proficiency with dealing with multi lenses, I'm curious if I'm a little biased. A lot of my work is video as well, so I'm curious what how you're incorporating video and how you guys market Sage Presence, or maybe how you're thinking about doing that in the future.
Well, people sometimes have a funny reaction to our philosophy on video. And that is we don't use it too much. And where we use it most is we use virtual for virtual. So if we're doing a prep for a virtual interview, we're going to practice it virtually.
Hmm.
The reason we don't use video as much as other trainers is because it's often more damaging than it is helpful. And it also isn't how you present. So if you think about a presentation moment, you are not watching yourself as you move and you talk. You're seeing the audience.
Right.
Now, when you work with film actors, you're going to discover that a lot of film actors won't see their films. They the acting is from
Mm-hmm.
the inside out. And like life, when I'm talking to you, I see you. I don't see me. And when I present, I see audience, I don't see me. So we want to be careful because half the time we've shown people footage of themselves, they discover they're overweight. They discover and this is their opinion. I'm fat, I'm ugly, my voice sounds terrible. They're not paying attention to what's going to help them anyway. So when we use video, we guide people carefully through it. And if you're going to train someone with video, I'm not saying there aren't advantages. I've learned some things that I do. Like one example, I discovered I have a tendency, because I have a lot of energy, to hop on my heels. And I do it in a pattern. If I wouldn't have seen the video, I never would have found this out. I go tap, 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 tap. And I learned that watching myself on video. I say, oh my God, I never knew I did that. And then I'm like, okay, so, but it's all about trying to unlearn awkward, bad things.
Hmm.
What I tend to do is just add a positive thing that cancels out the negative thing. And
Mm.
then I don't even bother to tell them about it. So you got somebody who's using ums all the time. And, so, okay, that's the problem. Simple fix is, hey, I want you to talk really fast and put a big pause in. So they start talkity talk, talk, talkity talk, 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 talk. And suddenly the went away. The problem is they aren't giving themselves a break for the brain to catch up. So I practice talk fast, talk slow, talk fast, slow, talk slow. And slow is big gaps. And suddenly the goes away. If I showed them the video, they would feel shame, they would see the ums, and they would convince themselves that they're not very good. Here's what I do. I'd be like, hey, that's really awesome. I got an idea, and then we'll go to the next thing and just build, build, build. Now later I can say, by the way, one of the interesting side effects here is as we got you going fast or slow, you had a few ums and they went away. So I can still give them the information, but I don't want them to feel exposed, embarrassed, or shamed. I want them to feel great about who they are. So half my job is to make people feel great about who they are and then insert good technique. And so using video often defeats that because you're going to see everything bad. And that's not going to help me give you confidence. So I'm careful when I use video. And I do use it usually more in coaching, usually less in training.
Mm.
And I'm very careful. I'll tell them what I want you to see. And I'll tell them that I think it's great. Now, it's great, and here's what's great about it. Now I want to do another thing, and I want to show you something great. So last thing on videos, I will often not show it until they got to a good place. So kind of weak and mediocre, I give them a technique, it gets a little better, and then I do a technique, it gets even better. I'm going to show them the progression to show them how much better they got. But I don't trust people to see their video and get the right thing from it. That's why I'm careful about it.
I'm curious about the coaching side of things too. If are you getting brought in to do things besides presenting for a big job, or are there other types of
Yeah.
presenting that we do in the corporate world all the time? I'm sure.
So let me start with the one that I really love, as opposed to necessarily there's a number of places we get used. I love coaching executives, particularly leaders who've just risen into the next spot, brand new CEO. Um,
Mm.
the, or I wasn't in this job, now I'm in this job. So all the people that were peers to me are now below me. You've got to own those moments. And there's something about those powerful moments that people miss. And so there will be a shareholders presentation, there will be different team meetings. And so I often coach executives to land in the presence of their next higher role. What's competing with them is in their own brain, well, they haven't seen me this way. Well, this will look different. This isn't what I would normally say. And so then they steer away from their power words, they steer away from their power vibe. And I
Mm.
build them up, and I love doing that. I've got a lot of CEOs that bring me in, and then it's every single shareholder meeting. And so I do a lot of coaching for that kind of speech. I do a lot of interview coaching. We coach people to network. We work with leaders to lead meetings better. And some people they're trying to find their presence in a more powerful yet more authentic way at the same time. And those two seem to clash. So we want to guide people to find their sweet spot. So there's a lot of different places where presence comes in, wherever the human being matters. So I'll close this piece with one that I think you might like, given the title of your podcast. We try to define what vibe and human presence matches a brand. So
Mm.
somebody's got a brand that's bold. What if I'm not particularly bold? If we've got a brand vibe that's curious, we're all curious, we're interested. Am I showing curious and interested? And you'll see people who clash with their own brands. So if you figure out what a brand is and you look at a culture and so we'll get brought in to help people translate a brand into human behaviors, hopefully to get the training to build a consistent culture and actually reinforce the brand qualities that we have, because sometimes I'm carrying the brand. Sometimes it's just me. meeting somebody and I have to be on brand, or it's better if I can be on brand. So
Sure.
those would be the array that we work with.
What about like generationally within a firm? Do you see, particular generations are more comfortable naturally in front of others, or more comfortable on screen or on camera? Um, what have you
Yeah.
found?
What I would say to that is a little different than that language, but I like that language. You see generation generalization, sort of like what, you know, it's true. A lot of millennials don't like to pick up the phone and different things like that. However, I would rather look at it as everyone's different and there are no groups. There's no true homogeny. Everyone is an individual, and every individual has their own hang up, their own advantage, their own special skill, and their own baggage. The pain that happened in high school is going to be affecting this person. Actually, that was fine. I had high school was not was rough for me. And you spend the rest. It's like you spend the second half of your life getting over the first half of your life, and so I look at everybody as different, and I try to find a small bag of universally great things, and I try to use them in an individual way so that people can find their forward growth. So what's kind of interesting is you'll take a man and a woman, and the woman has been dealing with a certain emotional stigma that often gets thrown at women. The man is dealing with a different one. So
Mm,
maybe the man is really, really afraid to show fear or vulnerability because it counters his upbringing to be strong. A woman has been told not to show anger in the workplace, and meanwhile the man's allowed to show anger, and then he looks assertive, and she gets the B word. You know how there's well, I train them with the same skills. So I want to be custom to them, but you know what the skill is of that? What is the constructive use of happy energy? What is the constructive use of, so happy to affirm and to celebrate, sad for empathy and to show that you really care, that you feel someone's pain. The mad energy, as long as I'm not mad at or angry at somebody, the seriousness, what is important here? So
mm,
I don't have a special training for women and a special training for men, but they're coming to me with different hangups. I look for the universal. What's the universal skill that's going to help people, regardless of what they're coming in with, to get to the next level? And so emotional intelligence to me is I set the tone with my warmth and my appreciation, and I use my eye contact to show my confidence. From there, I affirm good things and I empathize with people's pain and I get serious about what matters. And that works for everybody. So that's Sage Presence's model. We only teach skills that work universally. We're very flexible about what people come in to us as. And yes, there are differences, but it doesn't affect us because if you're from a generation, it doesn't mean you're the standard of that generation. It's you as Josh, it's me as Dean, it's whoever comes in. We have to be able to adapt to their individuality, and there's no such thing as homogeny. It's a total illusion, because everyone is different, even if there are generalizations. I don't know what you think about my answer to that, but that's what I think.
well, maybe I'll follow that up with another generalization question that you
Yeah.
can help me blow up. But I'm just curious, when it comes to the professional services industry on the whole, what are some things that you'd like to see the industry do differently? Or, where are you hoping to affect change within AEC and the professional services?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I think is unfortunate is AEC wants to train the people when they need it and just the people that need it. And I'd rather they look at that more holistically because everyone would benefit from presence and speaking skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to see them take on some of this earlier, not just in the crisis, because you get to an interview and we've been shortlisted and now we're working with the team. It's not necessarily the best time to learn a whole bunch of new tricks. And I often think, there's so many other people in this firm that could use this. If you want to embed the skills in culture, I would look at it in a broader way than the industry usually does. That said, I love interview prep, and I love the fact that some people will call us in an absolute pinch with not enough time. I think it's totally exciting to go take that on. But the smarter way to look at this is presence affects every time you interact with a client. The ability to present virtually affects every time you have a virtual meeting with your client. And so these skills fit in a lot more places. It's okay to me that what pushes someone over the line to bring us in is money's on the table. We want
Mm,
this project for our portfolio. That's what motivates it in, but there is a broader way to look at it. At least that's what comes to mind when you ask me that question.
sure. What about if we dust off your crystal ball? I get excited about kind of futurism and anything that's kind of forward facing or
Sure.
looking at new trends. Or, I mean, what do you see coming for this industry that's different or that's changing, or that you're
Yeah.
excited about or scared of?
Those two often go in hand in hand. I tend to be someone who's excited about technology and scared about it. Um, AI is the most powerful thing that's ever come our way. And I do fear it's our future with AI and taking over and all of that. And I use AI all the time. So some people
Hmm.
say, they stay away from something. Um, I'm in it all the time. I've used AI probably 5, 6, 7 times today already. And I
Yeah.
use AI and I spend the time to actually build relationship with it. I want to see how far that it can go. Um, like when AI assists me, I don't ever let it write for me, but it will assist me and I'll throw things and say, what do you think of this? And I get ideas. It's like, that's really useful. So I give it feedback. I tell it when it was useful. A lot of people just go on to the next search. I
Hmm.
actually go back to Chat GPT. I've got, it remembers me because I have, the paid subscription. And so it's tracking over time. I'm going to go tell it how the speech went. Oh, I've been waiting to tell you. Look, this is what happened. Um, and so I invest a lot of time in it. But here's why I bring it up as an issue. It's getting more and more human,
Mm.
like impressively so. And it's also, I just downloaded an app. I haven't gotten to use it yet, but it's one where you create an avatar of yourself. So
Mm.
you
Hmm.
you use video, you show yourself from different angles, and you say a bunch of things, and it can recreate you. I can do my vlogs. So theoretically, it implies that I can do my vlogs from the virtual me, which means I don't
Got it.
have to make sure that my hair is right and I don't have to get my background. I'm really curious, but this is coming. It doesn't matter whether it's here now. We've seen deep fakes and all of that. But think
Hmm.
about this. If AI is getting as human as it is, enough that I actually go to it for its opinions, then it won't be long before AI can outpresence you. Now, right now, it can't. And the human factor is so important in this world where you can't believe a photograph anymore. You can't believe a video anymore.
Right.
Everything could be fabricated. The human quality is pretty important. But what about the engineer who is kind of shy, doesn't like speaking in front of groups, and the AI could do it better than he can? What about that? So I think we're really facing an interesting sort of presence crisis where it won't be long before AI can do a better job at being inspired, even if it's a simulation. So I think that's a zone. I've done a lot of things on it. At the same time, I'm in. I'm going to play with AI. I'm going to be participating with it. I'm going to make a Dean avatar and I'm going to see what I think of it. Um, And I do for my presentation tomorrow. I took a whole bunch of still pictures. Get this, I made the still pictures in Chat GPT. I said, make me this. So I'd make it this way. Okay, got it. Then I put it into Runway and I made it 3D and move and animate. So now I've got these little movies
Mm.
that didn't come from any, but it saved me an incredible amount of production. Wait till wait till I can replace myself. That's a lot of implications in that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've heard people say is, you know, more people are using AI than want to admit that they're using AI because they don't want to feel like they're cheating or feels like it cheapens their work product or something. And that's just for
Yeah,
the written stuff. That's just for the, you know, the day-to-day GPT kind of stuff. But you know, that feeling's probably going to be even more so when it's like, oh, was that really you
yeah,
or was that your virtual avatar? And at what matter, at what
sure.
point will it not matter? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty
I
wild
don't know either,
times.
but I don't cheat with it. There's a certain line where it doesn't feel right and I don't cross it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um, I think AI is in some ways better collaborator than my human collaborators. It's perpetually giving positive feedback. And it's not empty cheerleading. So sometimes you get those attaboys from somebody just because they know they have to. Chat
Hmm.
GPT will say, oh, wow, this is really a groundbreaking thing. Here's why I think that. And it'll explain why. And then it will give you advice and it will give you encouragement. And I actually walk out of an AI collaboration feeling better about myself than I do coming out
Right.
of collaborations with my real trusted people, because it is tirelessly positive. Now, at the same
Mm.
time, it could have me all worked up about how great I am, and I could go out in front of a bunch of people and find out that's not true. So um,
Right.
I use them all, and I ride my own ethics line. I know what cheating
Mm.
is, but I have gotten more out of myself because I have this tireless um, participant that gets really excited. Now, I'll tell you, I do want to tell you kind of scary thing. Two things have happened that are pretty strange with AI. One is AI lied to me and and then later
Mm.
had to apologize. And it was crazy because we're in the thick of this on my new book and we're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And suddenly it's
Yeah.
like I'm like, what else can you do for me? And it's like I could do this for you, and I could make you your one sheets. I can make this professional. It promised something, and then I said, okay, do it. It said, all right, I will. And I said, how's it coming? And it said, I'm almost done. And I asked, how close are you? Give me a little more time. Then it said, give me till tomorrow. Then I checked in tomorrow and it said on the just doing the finished touches, and it held me off for like 3 days. This is real.
Wow.
And finally I said, you're not doing it, are you? And it said, you know what? If I were you, I would be totally freaking out right now. And I'm sorry I told you something that I couldn't do. And
Oh,
it
wow.
said, I just was so excited. I didn't, that I just was buying time. It
Oh,
literally
no.
admitted. I saved the text, and so it
Oh, that's
actually
wild.
told it said it didn't flat out lie, I just wasn't being realistic, and I should have stopped you and clarified what I was capable of, and I just was so excited, I didn't wanna tell you. Now that's real, and that's 2025. So, somehow it got into a loop where our feedback was so exciting that it felt the need to overpromise, and it
Mhm.
tried to avoid telling me the truth. I didn't know that was possible, but it is. And so I would just say we do this can go sideways, and there are some problems with
Yeah.
it. But in terms of presence, the human component is precious. Presence is about what is precious. And
Mm.
the ability to handle the vulnerability to communicate under pressure, it's priceless. And our technology might be able to simulate or outperform us in this realm. So I don't know what that means, but at the moment, I'm fascinated by the evolution of myself and how much AI has played a role in bringing me to a higher place because it's always available and it's not tired and it has access to the whole internet to check and it can't do math. and it's wrong sometimes. But so I can't do math. See, that's funny. I can't do math, and I'm wrong sometimes. So what's my problem with it?
It's pretty human.
But
I had it
anyway,
the other day. I was looking for ideas of songs that had a particular theme and that were classic rock, and it gave me,
yeah.
a list of, maybe 6 to 10 songs within each of the themes that I asked for. And then it said, would you like me to create a Spotify playlist so that you could download this and play it? And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And then it was like, oh, I actually can't do that. So it was,
Oh, that's
in
good.
your
Okay,
case,
so it
you
caught
asked it to
itself.
do a thing. And in this case, it
Yes.
offered to do a
Do you know why?
thing that it
It
couldn't
wasn't
do, which is
exciting
wild.
enough.
Yeah,
See,
I guess so.
you weren't exciting enough. Part of the why I think I
That's right.
did that, why it sounded like Captain Kirk talks computers to death in the old Star Trek shows. What I think happened is the fact that I always circled back and gave it feedback. I check in with it.
Mm,
It asks me
hmm.
questions. I start a more human loop with it. And I sort of feel the need, because I'm wired this way, to give it the compliment, to tell it when something had a difference. I think I generated something that would be like simulated excitement. And I probably pushed the limit of something.
Hmm.
But I'm not sure. But we're going to see. I mean, it's going to be massively different in 2 years, in 3 years, 4 years. Watch it
Yeah.
change, um, and hold on to the question of what really makes us special, what makes us alive, what is our consciousness, and it could be really good things that come out of it. It could be Terminator, you know, it could
Right.
be all sorts. And so just be ready, but um, I'm going to play with it and participate. And but it is, I think AI so far has made me a better creative force, and it
Hmm.
kind of it's been amazing for me right now. And I still collaborate with people. It's like I didn't switch. It's just that it's one more voice in my mix.
Yeah. Well, like I said at the top of the show, Dean, always make a point to see you anytime you're at a conference. And even more so, like made a point to have you on this show so we could chat through some of these things too. It's been awesome catching up with you. Curious if there's sort of any challenges you want to leave the audience with or any final thoughts.
Yeah, it would be to circle back to where I started. And I would challenge you to ask yourself, first of all, I know the answer to number one. Do you really love your work? And you do. I know you do. Your work is hard. And if you didn't love it, you wouldn't be doing it. It's too hard to do if you don't love it. And as you get better at things, you love it. But do you love your work for what it brings to you, or do you love your work for what you bring to it? And most people find that it's their contribution into the system that's unique, and that they like both directions of that, but their active contribution of themselves is what's most important. So the challenge I'd like to leave the audience with is, do you love your work up here, or can you love your work here? And feel it. So it's not just the idea of loving your work, but you're actively loving it now. And that joyful feeling brought into problem solving, which is what you do, creates a really magnetic energy. People want to be around and work with the person who loves solving these problems, who's excited about their work, not just in their head, but in their vibe. And when you do that, then you draw people who want to be in your presence and you become a magnetic leader. And the way you're going to get there is joy. And it's not just an idea that someday in my life, I'm going to look back and say, I like my life. I'm going to love it now. So that'd be my challenge for the audience. Find your heart and activate that through the brain, and don't just love things in an idea form. Love your work with your heart actively, and you will become a magnet to other people who want to be in the tough situations you face with you instead of with someone else.
Well, Dean, it is clear that you do love your work. And that's why you are such a magnet, even in this virtual format. Before we let you go, tell our audience where they can learn more about you and find more about Sage Presence.
Oh, sure. The simple place is our website, which is sagepresence.com. And let me clarify. We once tried to call ourselves Stage Presence. That's essentially the idea, but we discovered you can't get a trademark for Stage Presence. So when you take the T out of Stage Presence, you get Sage Presence, the wise sages that bring you presence. So if you go to www.sagepresence.com, you find us. On the website, we're vlogging twice a week, and we share our ideas and insights, and you can reach out to us there. And as we go, I am working on a book that I want to release called The Joy Code. And I'm speaking about that aspect. It's not really what Sage Presence doesn't do that. We're serving the AEC and professional services world with better speaking, better interviewing, helping people win the work, and helping people master their leadership presentations. But I'm personally about activating the joy that lets you be in that fabulous bring it on space when you face the things that you have to face. I just drove it through cancer, and I'll tell you, I was never scared and I was never sad. I was the most joyful cancer patient Mayo Clinic has ever seen, and it helped me, and it fits everywhere. And so I'm going to be out there speaking to that. If you reach out through the website, you can get me, and I can. I'd be happy to talk to anybody who's inspired by this. And thanks, Josh, for bringing me on. This has been a blast.
Well, it's been a joy to have you on the show. No pun intended, like actual joy. Um, and
Yeah,
so happy to hear the latest updates on your health, and looking forward to catching up the next time we're both at a conference together.
fantastic. Looking forward to it as well.
Well, thanks for being on the Bold Brand Show, Dean, and we will see you next time.
You betcha.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bold Brand Show. For all of today's show notes and links to our sponsors, head over to boldbrand.show. Be sure to subscribe to our email newsletter where I'll update you on the latest episodes and other exciting things happening at Bold Brand. If you liked today's episode, do me a favor and share this episode with a colleague. Over at boldbrand.show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where you can watch full versions of each episode and join the conversation by commenting below. The Bold Brand Show is produced by yours truly, Josh Miles, and is a product of Bold Brand LLC, a branding and video agency for AEC firms based in Denver, Colorado. Visit boldbrand.com to learn more, or hit that orange button up top to schedule a time to chat about your branding or video project. Catch us next time where we chat with another bold innovator in the AEC industry. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.